And I want to look in that camera right now and tell you, Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself.
I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections.
Every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say.
And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action.
The second Republican debate happened last night, and there's a lot to talk about. There was a lot more desperation in the air as the gap between Trump and everyone else hasn't been shrinking. So everyone was a lot more willing to go directly at Trump, except for Vivek, of course. He still had to coddle the man's balls. Tim Scott was very clearly trying to be more noticeable, coming out swinging early and attacking multiple candidates. And I think that DeSantis and Doug Burgum sneakily had the best showing. It kind of divulged into a shouting match later on with everyone yelling over each other and pointing fingers, and Vivek had the wind taken out of his sails, trying to be a diplomat with none of the other candidates having it, so he came off kind of like a rejected child looking for friends. But Doug and Ron were able to give concise answers and not get made to look argumentative and frankly childish like the other candidates. But the first question that they touched on was the UAW workers, and it was Tim Scott who came out first, and he came out swinging at the UAW workers. Big surprise.
Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, Senator?
Obviously, the President of the United States cannot fire anybody in the private sector. However, we should look back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill had $86 billion for the union pensions because they continue to overpromise yet underdeliver. One of the challenges that we have in the current negotiations is that they want 4-day French work weeks, but more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand.
So he's clever enough to know that staying on the union stuff isn't smart with, working class Americans who are going to be voting. So he quickly pivots to the southern border. But as to what he's actually saying, the biggest thing the UAW is asking for is increased pay to match the profits and the CEOs' pay increases that they've been seeing while the workers have not. CEOs have seen a 34% salary increase in the last decade, while workers have seen 6%. And there was recently a study in the Washington Post about 30 companies, over 1,000 employees in multiple countries trying a 4-day reduced hour work week, and they all reported back having increased revenue, less call-outs, and saying productivity was up, reporting that most of them were going to stick with this as it improved their company and work life. So it's almost like caring about employees' well-beings and the balance between work and personal life increases how well they work. It's kind of crazy. The next topic I want to jump to, though, is the government shutdown, where Christie kind of attacks everyone and then goes directly at Trump, the first person to do so, before Ron DeSantis either building courage from hearing Christie go at Trump or having finally gained some kahunas himself, also finally calls out Trump.
If the government shuts down, should voters blame populist Republicans?
Voters should blame everybody who's in Washington, D.C. They get sent down there to do the job, and they've been failing at doing the job for a very long time. And let's be honest about this with the voters. During the Trump administration, they added $7 trillion. $7 trillion in national debt. Joe Biden hides in his basement and won't answer as to why he's raising the debt the way he's done. And Donald Trump hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions for the people you talk about who are suffering.
Where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record where they added $7.8 trillion to the debt. That set the stage for the inflation that we have now.
Now, it's great to hear some Republicans actually being honest, but it's also kind of funny. They admit that Trump added almost $8 trillion to the debt, and they don't mention this, but that along with the revenue cuts from the tax cuts for corporations and the wealthy is really what added to the inflation that we're seeing. But the irony is none of them are going to do anything different than the things that they're talking about. They're all run run-of-the-mill trickle-down economics Republicans, and that's why none of them ever actually mention what they'll do different. They're just trying to attack everybody else. DeSantis increased government spending in Florida, and Christie also did in New Jersey. They obviously just need something to go at Trump for because, again, the lead is insurmountable and nothing is bringing them closer. They're all getting rather desperate here. We'll skip to immigration next, and we've actually done like 2 or 3 videos in just the past few days debunking the Republican lies about the border and immigration. So we'll skip over the boring stuff that they all spew, and we'll go directly to Tim Scott, where he comes at Vivek, and it starts to get a bit spicy.
We think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that because last debate he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, you know, I can't imagine how you can say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well.
When every other CEO expanded into the Chinese market, you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company, Strive, right when it that's years ago.
So it's very clear that Vivek is trying to be more of a colleague here, but all the rest of them just want to attack him. And going forward in this debate, it makes for some actual hilarious moments. He's been doing less interviews recently because he's been getting exposed about these things and hit harder in the media. And I think it's a matter of all of these candidates smelling blood in the water from somebody who was previously surging, and compared to the first debate, it really seems like the wind has been taken out of his sails. I mean, he's trying to play like the friend here. Even when he's getting attacked, he's not like trying to ding back like he did in the first debate. It's kind of weird. It's like maybe he came off annoying and he realized it, and people were like, yo, calm it down, you know? Mike Pence is then asked about DACA and how him and Trump were trying to end it and the steps they took, but he takes the moment to instead come at Vivek. And I've got to say, Pence has impressed me with his quips because for an older white potato, he actually says some kind of funny things sometimes.
Dreamers work and they pay taxes. As president, if the Supreme Court ends DACA, would you work with Congress to reach a permanent solution for dreamers?
Well, first, let me say I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections. So.
Now, I'm not going to listen to him go on to try to defend DACA because that was a horrible thing and the Supreme Court ruled against it because it was inhumane, unconstitutional, would have been disastrous for hundreds of thousands of working, tax-paying citizens who were just immigrants. But I digress, you know. Next, Mike Pence is asked not only about pledging to end Obamacare, but failing to do so even when him and Trump had the congressional majority, and he just completely tries to avoid the question.
You said if elected, you would repeal all Obamacare mandates. However, you also made that same promise in 2016. And at that time, Trump-Pence had congressional majorities for at least the first 2 years, and you did not deliver on that promise. So Obamacare, right now, it is more popular than ever. Why should Americans trust you, if you become president, to fix that, or is Obamacare here to stay?
Well, first, let me speak to the mass shootings issue, and then I'll answer that question. It's an important one, Dana. Look, I'm someone that believes that justice delayed is justice denied. And as a father of 3, as the grandfather of 3 beautiful little girls, I am sick and tired of these mass shootings happening in the United States of America. And if I'm president of the United States, I'm going to go to the Congress of the United States, and we're going to pass a federal expedited death penalty for anyone involved in a mass shooting so that they will meet their fate in months, not years. It is unconscionable that the Parkland shooter, Ron, is actually going to spend the rest of his life behind bars in Florida. That's not justice. We have to mete out justice and send a message to these would-be killers that you are not going to live out your days behind bars. You're going to meet justice in this system.
But does that mean Obamacare is here to stay?
So yeah, it's bad. I think this actually is going to be Pence's last debate. He's already inched his way to the end, and he mostly just filibustered through most of the questions he's asked here, or spitefully tried to cut off other people and go at them, something that obviously rubbed people wrong at the last debate as he lost momentum coming out of it. He just goes on to talk about Trump in the States after she reminds him he didn't answer the question, so I'm not even going to play that. It's pretty hard to watch, actually. He's hard to listen to for a sustained period of time. So let's just go on to more of the fun moments. Vivek again getting attacked, this time by Nikki Haley. And when he tries to play the diplomat again, he's correctly called out by Christie, I think DeSantis. It's a couple people who jump in. Haley says something. They all jump in and call him out for having a different attitude just 4 weeks prior when he was going scorched earth trying to attack everybody else.
TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say. Because I can't believe that here you've got a TikTok situation. What they're doing is these 150 million people are on TikTok. That means they can get your contacts, they can get your financial information, they can get your emails, they can get text messages, they can get all of these things.
This is very important for our party.
Exactly what they're doing.
This is very important for our party, and I'm going to say it. I think, excuse me.
You have 15 seconds, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you. I think we would be better served as a Republican Party if we're not sitting here hurling personal insults and actually have a legitimate debate about policy following Reagan's 11th Commandment in his honor.
I just can't with this clip. It's like he really wants to be their friend, but none of them like him. Like he's just the kid who can't sit at the lunch table now, you know? And what I think it is personally is that the media has really turned against him, where they used to be supportive and he was the hotshot guy surgeon, to now where he goes on these interviews and his stances are getting challenged, his past is getting brought up, all the dirt is getting dug, and he wants somebody to be on his side, and he knows it also strengthens his position if within the party he has support. So coming into this debate, he wants to be the mediator, but nobody else on the stage is ready to just forgive him like that. And it leads to these kind of hilarious moments where he's trying to make up for the bridges he's burned, and they're all just like, no, dude, like, stop. So that's going to be the last clip that we play for this video. I'm going to end it here. We're going to do maybe more individualized videos breaking down some of what they talked about later in the debate if you guys really want that. We aren't going to put them in here because a lot of them lack the excitement, and in this video I really just wanted to capture the best moments of the debate rather than drill into bad positions that we all know Republicans are going to have. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure you do subscribe and like this video, because we're going to be doing all kinds of content leading up to the election, the primaries, the general. We'll be covering all the debates. I'm going to try to go live for the next one. No promises yet, but make sure you stick around to keep up with all things leftist and all things politics. If you enjoyed this video, we're Social Society. We're a commentary channel influenced by politics, society, and the economy. We are pretty left-leaning on this channel, but we're open to our right-wingers as well. The biggest thing here is having conversations that get everyone to the bottom of the truth. If that sounds like something that interests you, consider smashing that subscribe button, leaving us a like, or even commenting on this video, because the only way we become a society is together.